This man is an invincible presence in the apocalypse. Not only have they hoarded billions of supplies to build their own base, but also subdued the boss of the zombie world to serve as their lackey. Even the myriad sea creatures worship him as the Sea King. They come to the seaside punctually every month to admire his divine might, hoping to be fortunate enough to receive the king's blessing. Just as the sea creatures were wondering why they had yet to see the Sea King, Qianluo, accompanied by the Sea Princess and Jiang Chuxue, suddenly appeared at the seaside through a void walk. Seeing this, the sea creatures immediately knelt down and called out in unison, "Greetings to the great Sea King." At that moment, the red lanternfish spoke obsequiously, reporting to the great Sea King, "There are 126 sea tribes qualified to attend the gathering. 122 have arrived. There are still 14 absent." Hearing this, Qianluo was immediately enraged. "Mark down those who didn't show up, daring to disdain my divine might. I will not be lenient." At this moment, Qianluo also noticed two sea creatures transformed into human form. The female was very gentle looking, while the male was showing off his muscular upper body. These two were not accelerated by Qianluo's time powers, yet they had quickly advanced to king level. He thought to himself, "These two are already mature sea creatures. No use in raising them further. Might as well perhaps find a reason to kill them." Seeing the Sea King's gaze on them, the female immediately knelt down with a splash. "Bebe greets the great Sea King." But the man stood still, unmoving. Seeing this, Qianluo immediately asked, "Why do you not kneel?" Unexpectedly, the other party did not regard Qianluo at all, and retorted, "I am not accustomed to kneeling." At those words, all the sea creatures shouted in unison, "Swordfish, how dare you be so bold? Even we without legs can kneel. Can't you with legs do the same? You are clearly showing contempt for the divine might of the Sea King." Hearing this, Qianluo appeared expressionless, but inside, he was secretly pleased. Isn't this the opportunity to eradicate the roots? Seeing the situation turning bad, the swordfish transformed back into its original form, ready to flee, muttering, "You spineless creatures can kneel. Only fools would believe he has divine power. Goodbye." Seeing this, Qianluo did not indulge it, and immediately used a spatial exile to pull it back. "Trying to run? Do you have the ability?" At this moment, the swordfish was a bit stunned before it could understand the situation. It heard Qianluo shout, "Behold my divine power. Time stop. Freeze it for me." He then quickly signaled Jiang Chuxue with his eyes. Jiang Chuxue was also very perceptive, and promptly cast time stop on the swordfish. The next second, the sea princess appeared in front of the swordfish with a divine sword, shouting, "You dare to disrespect my brother. Die." This scene shocked all the sea creatures. They all declared, "Indeed, the divine power of the great Sea King is profound and unfathomable." The swordfish was truly frozen in midair, unable to move. As soon as the words fell, the sea princess swiftly decapitated it with a slash of her sword. Seeing the situation, Qianluo immediately started to talk nonsense with a straight face. 2 years ago, as the Sea King, I bestowed endless divine power upon the sea tribes. That's why he had the chance to transform into human form. Ungrateful for the blessings from me, his death is indeed not pitiable. At these words, all the sea creatures shouted in agreement, "Well deserved. Without the Sea King's blessing, how could our strength possibly grow so fast? The Sea King is awesome. We swear to follow the Sea King to the death." It must be said that Qianluo was indeed good at bluffing. Then he said solemnly, "Red lanternfish, tell me the top 5 performers from last month who transported humans. I will bestow divine power upon them." But to his surprise, the great sea turtle, not hearing its name, became unhappy, quickly claiming, "My performance was the best. Why isn't my name there?" Hearing this, the vertical river turtle muttered to itself, "Cousin, you're so brave to dare to question the Sea King right to his face." Hearing this, Qianluo did not blame him, but explained, "You've already received a blessing once. If you want to reach above king level, the divine power required will be a bit much. Your current performance is not enough. Wait until it is, and I will naturally bestow divine power upon you." Upon hearing this, the great sea turtle immediately expressed gratitude. "Thank you for your cultivation, Sea King. I will work even harder in the future." But at this moment, Bebe suddenly came over and said, "It's my first time seeing the Sea King. I didn't prepare any gifts, so I offer one of my companion pearls. It can greatly enhance the effects of ice powers. I hope the Sea King will kindly accept it. I wonder if I have the good fortune to serve by your side." Though Qianluo verbally refused, "How could I take such a precious treasure from you?" His body was honest, readily taking the pearl offered by Bebe, and said, "Since you are so sincere, I will reluctantly accept it. From now on, you will serve as my mate alongside Red Lanternfish." But at that moment, Wan Jiangue suddenly sent a telepathic message to Qianluo. "Immortal Chen, the zombie emperor Big Strong has just obtained a king-level crystal. Hurry over." Without a second word, Qianluo used Void Walk to arrive at Big Strong's base, then immediately praised him. "You did well, kid, to have killed a king-level mutant." Hearing this, Big Strong was shocked, muttering to himself, "I haven't even warmed up this crystal, and Big Brother already knows. No need to think. It must have been that traitor who told him. It seems this kid can't be kept around." Seeing this, Big Strong didn't dally, and immediately took out the king-level crystal and offered it to his big brother, although he was reluctant in his heart. If Big Brother wanted it, what use was there in hiding it? It was better to hand it over proactively to make a good impression. Seeing Big Strong's proactive approach, Qianluo was taken aback and immediately expressed, "What kind of person do you take your big brother for? This is something you exchanged with your life. How can I accept it? Your goodwill. Big brother appreciates it." Secretly thinking, when the monster onslaught comes, Big Strong's combat power cannot be underestimated. Keeping it to enhance its own strength is more prudent. I cannot covet what others desire at this time, otherwise, will it still obediently follow my command? With this in mind, Chenluo immediately said with a smile, "Actually, brother came here just to tell you, if you obtain high-level corpses in the future, remember to keep them for me. I have a use for them. If there's nothing else, big brother will take his leave first." Upon hearing this, Big Strong hurriedly said, "Big brother, wait a minute. Take this guy away too. I have endured him for a long time. He does nothing at my base and that's bad enough, but he even dared to flirt with my female zombie subordinates." Hearing this, Chenluo's bladder trembled, nearly wetting himself with fright, and he thought to himself, "This guy has quite the heavy taste, harboring such special fetishes." Under the strong insistence of both Big Strong and Wan Jiangui, Chenluo had no choice but to agree to take him back to Dawn City. After returning to the base, Rice immediately ran excitedly towards Chenluo, shouting, "This is great, this is great, you're finally back." Then, she pounced on Chenluo, knocking him to the ground. "Come with me right now, this instant. I have a fortune to offer you." Hearing this, Chenluo was overjoyed, thinking that if Rice calls it a fortune, then it must be immensely beneficial for him. At that moment, Rice said in a deep voice, "Since the journey this time is rather long, it would be more convenient for me to transform and lie on your shoulder." After saying this, Rice transformed into a cat and jumped onto his shoulder, and then Chenluo, following Rice's directions, used void walking. 2.5 hours later, they finally arrived at the destination, Flying Continent. Rice said, "Your fortune is not yet here. You need to wait patiently. During this time, you absolutely cannot leave, and there is a certain risk associated with this opportunity, so be very careful. Hurry and send me back first." Hearing this, Chenluo immediately used spatial banishment to send Rice back to Dawn City, and he himself immediately changed into his divine attire, quietly waiting for the opportunity to come. Sure enough, after waiting for 2 days, Chenluo finally saw the fortune that Rice had mentioned. A giant mutant fell from the sky, and judging from the aura it emitted, its strength had definitely reached the Emperor level. Chenluo, who had lived for 12 years in his previous life, had only seen king-level mutants. Emperor level was unheard of. Chenluo then daydreamed about the Emperor level crystal. Rice, forever a god. This frightened the mutant zombie, which then turned its head towards Chenluo. "You've been behind me all this time. What do you want?" Hearing this, Chenluo grinned and said, "I just wanted to see what an Emperor level zombie looks like. Now that I have, it's nothing special." The mutant didn't waste words and immediately rose from the ground and shot towards him, then swung a claw at Chenluo, which he narrowly dodged with a leap. Before the mutant could react, Chenluo had already eerily teleported behind it, preparing to release the dimensional blade at close range. Unexpectedly, the zombie didn't retreat but raised its claw, ready to take him head-on. This shocked Chenluo, who was about to unleash his big move, thinking to himself, "If I insist on releasing the dimensional blade at close range, the instant it hits, I'll be pierced by its claw." Realizing this, Chenluo immediately stopped his motion and quickly used void walking to avoid the mutant's deadly strike. This terrified the mutant to no end. He hurriedly shouted, "How can a human be so fast?" But before it could finish its sentence, Chenluo quickly retaliated with a time-slowing technique on his opponent, while accelerating time for himself. After a back and forth in speed, the mutant's pace, in the eyes of Chenluo, seemed as slow as a snail. Easily dodging the mutant's attack, Chenluo, in turn, unleashed the void sword. He then thrust it fiercely towards its brow. However, this strike did not deal a fatal blow to the Emperor-level adversary. Seeing this, Chenluo did not dally. Immediately, he swung another sword, severing one of its arms. At this moment, although Chenluo seemed to easily have the upper hand, his energy expenditure was actually quite significant. Time acceleration and time deceleration are both skills that continuously drain his special abilities. The battle had to be concluded quickly. Otherwise, once his energy was depleted, escaping from an Emperor-level powerhouse would be quite difficult. With this in mind, Chenluo immediately took the void sword and advanced towards the mutant. This scared it witless. It hurriedly shouted, "Young hero, spare my life. Isn't conceding enough for you?" Then Chenluo coldly said, "Surrendering is fine. Leave your life behind." In the next second, a flash of cold light swept across its neck. Seeing this, Chenluo did not hesitate. He quickly stepped forward and created a brain hole in the creature. He muttered to himself, "No wonder Rice said she was giving me an opportunity. This time I've made a fortune. With this Emperor-level crystal, in 1 month I could advance to Emperor level. In this creature's body, I'll feed it to the enchanting tree. If it produces less than 6 king-level fruits, it would definitely be considered embezzlement by the enchanting tree." Afterwards, Chenluo immediately returned to base to begin absorbing the crystal. After 1 month of absorption, he finally reached the moment of advancing to Emperor level. The next second, a piercing agony instantly spread throughout his body, making him experience the feeling of worse than death. After enduring 2 minutes of torment, Chenluo finally exhaled in relief. Although the process of advancing to Emperor level was excruciating, he remembered clearly that it was still easier than in his previous life. Could it be that my advancement this life is not solely due to absorbing the crystal, but also partly due to consuming the fruits? Regardless, if I want to break through again in strength, the total number of king-level crystals and fruits needed would be at least in the thousands. Even if all the king-level powerhouses of the apocalypse were killed, it would not be half of what is needed. Let's not dwell on this matter for now. Today is the day of the marine life gathering. Let's head to the seaside first. As Chenluo made his sudden appearance, all the marine life began to call out in unison, "Greetings, Lord Sea King." Then Chenluo said in a deep voice, "Red Lanternfish, report the attendance situation." Upon hearing this, she immediately knelt down, reporting to Lord Sea King, "There are 146 qualified to attend the 3rd Marine Life Conference. 138 are present. The 9 from the Sea Tribe who were absent last time, we have forcibly brought here to await Lord Sea King's disposition." As she spoke, she ordered her subordinates to bring forth the absentees. Then Chenluo smiled slightly. "Considering it's your first offense, I will spare your lives this time. Take them back and detain them for 1 year. If there's a next time, I will not be so lenient." Although Chenluo verbally expressed his intention to spare them, his inner thoughts were focused on waiting until they grew to king level, at which point he would promptly eliminate them. At this moment, the marine creatures were still foolishly shouting their thanks for Sea King's mercy. Suddenly, a shark spoke anxiously, reporting to Sea King, "I have urgent news." In fact, 2 of the marine creatures who didn't show up today didn't just not come, they were eaten by a sea serpent on their way here. Luckily, I swam fast enough to narrowly escape a similar fate. Upon hearing this, Chenluo immediately became furious and shouted, "Such audacity, to defy my authority and slaughter my subjects. No matter where this sea serpent hides, I will make it pay for its actions. All sea clans heed my command. Set out immediately and find it." The sea serpent, now terrified by the massive hunt orchestrated by the sea's formidable creatures, muttered to itself, "It was just 2 marine creatures. Is there a need to make such a fuss over me?" Despite its complaint, the sea serpent had to surface to avoid the relentless pursuit. But just as it breached the water, a glowing hand reached out and grabbed it with no resistance, dragging it into a block of ice. A flash of dark luster passed, and the ice block seemed to vanish, seamlessly blending into the vast icy landscape as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, the marine creatures reported having turned the ocean upside down, with no sign of the sea serpent. Red Lanternfish hastily explained that they had indeed spotted it, but upon reaching the Antarctic, it mysteriously disappeared without a trace. This infuriated Chenluo, who immediately cursed them as a bunch of good-for-nothing drunkards. "So many of you chasing one sea serpent, and you let it escape. No matter, I want to see a body, dead or alive. Issue the command. Intensify the search. I refuse to believe that such a big serpent could just evaporate into thin air. If it's not in the sea, my men on land will find it." But just then, Zhao Zi came with good news for Chenluo. "Bro Chen, our members reported finding the armor pants on Plum Continent. Please hurry over to confirm." Without delay, Chenluo used Void Walk to reach Plum Continent, where the recently discovered armor was presented to him. Upon close examination, he noticed a faint line at the knee and intricate patterns made of mysterious runes inside. This had to be the pants of the armor set, he thought. If the set didn't include a belt or necklace, then he would have completed the set. With this thought, he eagerly put on the pants, eager to test out any special effects. He kicked fiercely towards the sky, but was surprised to find no shocking wave of force. At that moment, Chenluo was utterly perplexed, thinking to himself that it can't be possible that, unlike all other set pieces with special abilities, these pants only improved defense. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Big Strong was vacationing at the beach with Thorn Queen when they suddenly saw a king-level strongman spewing flames at the sea. Without hesitation, Big Strong flew into the air, vowing not to let anyone disrupt his date. "You dare to ruin my outing? I'll make sure your head is wide open." With that, he threw a heavy punch at the flame-wielding individual, only for it to be blocked by Jiang Bao's flame shield. Seeing this, Jiang Bao didn't indulge it, and without a second word, he spewed out a scorching flame at it. However, to his surprise, his attack not only failed to harm Big Strong, but even exposed his own flaw. Seizing the moment, Big Strong found the right opportunity, and with a counterpunch landed a heavy blow on his face. Struck by the punch, Jiang Bao plummeted to the ground like a cannonball. Watching a crowd of zombies smiling wickedly as they surrounded him, muttering about having a marine creature for a meal, Jiang Bao shouted, "You bunch of small fries, trying to gang up on me? Don't run away when my backup arrives." Big Strong was unimpressed and retorted, "Even if you call for help, what will it do? Help collect your body?" Before he could finish his sentence, dozens of king-level fighters arrived at the scene, shouting, "Who's the dead man who dared to cause this trouble?" At that moment, the bewildered Big Strong was a bit stunned, thinking to himself, when did king-level marine creatures become so plentiful? Moreover, their numbers kept increasing. Soon nearly 100 king-level marine creatures had arrived. Seeing this, Big Strong chose not to dawdle and admitted defeat right there. "Bro, don't get excited. It was all my fault just now. Let's talk this out." But before he could finish, Jiang Bao slapped him with a loud smack across the face, shouting, "Weren't you acting all tough before? Why are you cowering now? Do you think you have the strength to fight me?" Then Red Lanternfish coldly walked over and said, "Just kill him and be done with it. Don't waste Sea King's time with this. Here Hearing this, Big Strong immediately realized that the chance of escaping from so many king-level fighters was almost zero. His only option now was to call for help from his big brother. Meanwhile, on the other side, Qianluo was considering how to help Mi Li break through to Emperor level as quickly as possible, because when the monster descends, Mi Li's role would be crucial. If they combined absorbing crystals and eating fruit, it might only take about 100 days to advance. However, this suggestion was immediately rejected by Rice, who said 100 days was too long and insisted on using time acceleration to assist her, or she wouldn't have time to understand her new abilities. Upon hearing this, Qianluo hurriedly asked if there would be any side effects, to which Rice admitted there might be some, but nothing significant compared to the impending crisis. Upon hearing this, Mi Li immediately said if Rice thought so, then he should go ahead with her plan, as she also wanted to help in the upcoming crisis. Qianluo was touched and immediately took Mi Li into his arms. But at that moment, Zhao Zi suddenly came running over, shouting, "Big trouble, Brother Chen. Big Strong has sent a distress signal, saying he's in mortal danger, and the enemy is so formidable that you wouldn't be blamed for not going." Upon hearing this, Qianluo turned pale with shock, thinking to himself, what kind of terrifying being could it be that would make Big Strong say such a thing? Could it be an Emperor-level fighter? Without further thought, Qianluo immediately sent a telepathic message to Big Strong, reassuring him, "Don't panic, Big Brother is on his way." With this message, Big Strong felt emboldened and shouted, "I've got backup too, just you wait." As his voice fell, Qianluo used a spatial ability to appear at the scene instantly. Seeing him, Big Strong quickly cried out, "Big Brother, I'm here." At this declaration, all the marine creatures were shocked and started exclaiming, "Isn't that Sea King? How could he be the brother of a zombie?" Taken aback, Qianluo paused, realizing a case of mistaken identity. Meanwhile, Big Strong still cluelessly sent a telepathic message to Qianluo, "Isn't this weird, Big Brother? All these guys are king level. Maybe we should just run away with Thorn Queen." But as soon as he finished speaking, the marine creatures all knelt before Qianluo and shouted in unison, "Hail Sea King." At this moment, Big Strong was utterly dumbfounded. My big brother is the Sea King? He found the person before him both familiar and strange, always knowing his brother was mysterious, but never to this extent. Just then, Jiangbao mustered the courage to ask, "Lord Sea King, is this zombie really your brother?" Qianluo thought that it was time to reveal the truth, as they would need to work together in the future, but being the Sea King and declaring brotherhood with a zombie was indeed inappropriate. Wondering how to explain, Qianluo had a flash of inspiration and began to bluff with a serious tone. "Back in my days of traveling the human world, I indeed took this lad as my junior. Now that we're all one of our own, let's just let bygones be bygones, shall we?" Hearing this, Jiangbao dared not say more and hurriedly suggested, "No hard feelings. After all, it's a case of no fight, no acquaintance. Why doesn't Brother Big Strong hit me back?" Understanding the situation, Big Strong immediately admitted his fault too, asking Jiangbao for forgiveness. The Thorn Queen was confused at this moment, but still understood the gravity of the situation. When Big Strong signaled his followers to come and pay respects to the big brother, Thorn Queen was the first to kneel down. The whole scene had thoroughly shocked her, forcing her to submit to this human. After resolving the issue at hand, Qianluo returned to the base to assist Mi Li with time acceleration. During this process, he had a revelation. He thought of combining his time and space abilities to create a space where time flowed slower than the outside world. With this in mind, Qianluo immediately began to merge the two abilities, quickly creating a specific space-time area. Seeing this, Mi Li asked with curiosity, "Brother Qianluo, what is this?" But no sooner had Mi Li asked the question than Qianluo spat out a mouthful of blood, startling Mi Li considerably. She cried out in alarm, "Husband, what's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly injured?" As Mi Li quickly cast a healing spell, Qianluo insisted he was fine, even though the episode had shattered his crystal, just like the first time he had used time acceleration. Qianluo then spoke in a grave tone, "Quick, go get me 2 clocks." He began to test the temporal flow within the space-time area, and after staying inside for 3 minutes, he was pleasantly surprised to find that only 1 minute had passed outside. This meant that Mi Li's advancement speed could be increased threefold, while he could also attend to other matters. However, he was unsure how long the space-time area could be maintained, and thus, it was crucial not to waste any time inside it. With this in mind, Qianluo immediately decided that the area should be used in rotation by Mi Li and the Sea Princess to maximize its utility. However, this suggestion was met with opposition from Rice, who insisted that Mi Li be allowed to advance to Emperor level first and that the Sea Princess should not use the area before that. Hearing this, Qianluo turned pale, wondering if Rice had predicted that the Sea Princess might go berserk again after her advancement. It seemed his plan to have his sister play along with his act would have to be delayed. A month and a half later, after Mi Li had advanced to Emperor level and was excitedly looking for the Sea Princess, having realized a divine purification skill during her advancement, concerned that his sister might occasionally go berserk due to consuming mysterious meat, Qianluo had Mi Li purify the Sea Princess's heart of any murderous desires. Although the Sea Princess was reluctant, she complied at her brother's request. Without hesitation, Mi Li performed the divine purification on the Sea Princess. Princess. As the purifying light slowly entered her body, the icy look in the Sea Princess's eyes began to soften. Meili continued to release the purification nonstop for more than 10 minutes until her abilities were drained, yet she could not fully suppress the murderous intent within the Sea Princess. This made Qianluo's scalp tingle with unease, realizing that even the Emperor-level Meili could not completely remove the negative influence of the meat. It was a sobering reminder of how terrifyingly powerful the owner of the divine armor must have been. At that moment, Qianluo finally understood why zombies could advance without absorbing crystals. If the owner of the divine armor was associated with darkness, then everything made sense. After his mysterious death and the subsequent explosion of his body, the dark and evil energy within him had spread across the globe, giving rise to the species of zombies. These energies could only be absorbed by zombies, allowing them to survive without food. Survivors, on the other hand, improved their levels by absorbing the zombies' crystals. This meant that the survivors were indirectly absorbing the power of the divine armor's owner. His blood and power contaminated the land, leading to the emergence of mutated creatures. His flesh fed the creatures that ate it, inducing rapid evolution. His weapons and armor scattered across the world were instrumental in the proliferation of life. When a whale falls, myriad creatures thrive. As for the most important crystals, were they taken by the one who killed him? If so, Qianluo hoped that person had simply taken the crystals and left, for if he could kill the original owner of the divine armor, who could stand against him? The forthcoming monster invasion was most likely in search of the divine armor and its crystals. With the information at hand, Qianluo deduced the true nature of the apocalypse, piece by piece. Pulling his thoughts together, he took a deep breath, resolving to prepare for the upcoming monster onslaught. Thinking ahead, he quickly asked Meili how many people had reached level 10. Meili immediately responded that there were 56. Curious about his question, she asked why he wanted to know. Qianluo requested that Meili pass along a message to prepare these 56 members for advancement to king level and to inform them about the imminent monster descent. They had the choice to accept his help to advance quickly, but those who did had to fight at the forefront, with cowardice being met with death. He also asked to convey a message to Zhao Zi to notify the sea tribes to convene the 4th Oceanic Creatures Congress the next day. Having laid out his plans, Qianluo then kissed Meili on the cheek, murmuring words of gratitude for her hard work. Afterward, he approached the Sea Princess and shared with her a wild plan. As the 4th Oceanic Creatures Congress was convened as usual, Qianluo staggered to the seashore. The marine creatures were baffled by his appearance and expressed their concern, asking what had happened to him. Qianluo, pale and weak, simply said, "It's a long story, but what I want to know is if you all will swear eternal loyalty to me." Upon hearing Qianluo's request for eternal loyalty, the vertical river turtle was the first to declare, "I swear to be loyal to you, Sea King, to the death. Whoever dares to harm you, I shall be the first to extinguish them." Bebe also pledged, "I am willing to serve Sea King for life, unwavering until death." Red Lanternfish immediately bellowed, "My loyalty to Sea King can be witnessed by the sun and the moon." Following this, the marine creatures one after another shouted their oaths of loyalty to Sea King, proclaiming that if they were to break their vow, they should be struck by thunder from the heavens 5 times over. Qianluo feigned extreme weakness, but inside he was chuckling to himself. Who is truly loyal to me? We shall soon see. Then, with a dispirited expression, Qianluo revealed, "A traitor has emerged among my confidants. While I was blessing the sea tribes, she stole my divine power, my divine armor, and even attempted to assassinate me. That traitor will likely be pursuing me soon. I need everyone to do their utmost to hold her off for 1 hour until my divine power can be restored." But before he could finish, a voice filled with cold murderous intent echoed along the shoreline, "Sea King, your time has come." As the voice fell, a figure clad in purple armor wielding the king's sword appeared midair, the antagonist of the day, the Dark Witch Sea Princess. At that moment, Jiang Bao coldly challenged, "Who dares to disrespect Sea King? To strike at a god, you must step over my dead body." As soon as these words fell, Sea Princess exuded a terrifying aura, her voice emanating a chilling coldness. "Today, I'm only here to execute Sea King. Those who don't wish to die, stay out of the way, or be ready to face a god's wrath." Upon hearing this, Red Lanternfish immediately roared with righteous indignation, "What arrogance! Not only do you insult Sea King's majesty, you dare to commit deicide. Everyone, follow me. Let's fight to buy time for Sea King." That, under the direction of Red Lanternfish, the sea creatures launched a ferocious offensive against Sea Princess. What of an Emperor-level fighter? If so many attacks hit, surely she cannot withstand them, they thought, which was why the sea creatures remained somewhat calm. To everyone's horror, however, Sea Princess, who had taken so many hits, did not suffer even a scratch. It became evident that this woman had indeed stolen Sea King's divine power, or she would not have been able to defend like this. Then, with a sneer, Sea Princess uttered, "You had the choice of heaven, yet you did not walk it. Hell had no gate, yet you've broken through it." With these words, she unleashed a devastating ground-splitting slash towards the sea. In the next second, the marine creatures were catapulted into the air like flying fish. Seeing this, Qianluo, the drama king, didn't dawdle and instantly pretended to be blown away by the shockwave with great exaggeration. As Qianluo touched the ground, Sea Princess suddenly appeared before the Sea King in a blink, and the climax was set to unfold. With a shout from Sea Princess, commanding Sea King, meet your demise, a massive dark magic missile fiercely shot towards Qianluo, who now had no escape. Just as the missile was about to hit, a shadowy figure suddenly swooped in front of him. At this critical moment, it was Red Lanternfish who stepped forward, taking the fatal blow for the Sea King, whispering with her dying breath, "As long as I stand, you shall not harm the Sea King in the slightest." Qianluo, witnessing this scene, stood frozen, taken aback by the unexpected loyalty of Red Lanternfish. Then Sea Princess, clapping her hands, mockingly said, "Such loyalty to one's master is truly touching. However, Sea King, you can't escape your fate today." She proceeded to trap the marine creatures that had genuinely fought against her in a dark barrier, while those who were slackers or pretenders were left aside. Qianluo urgently cried out, encouraging everyone to hold on as his divine power was on the verge of returning, asserting that with united efforts, they could capture her with at most the loss of 20 or 30 comrades. Upon hearing this, some marine creatures stopped pretending and defected to the enemy, including Qianluo's personal maid Bebe. Although it was all a play directed by Qianluo, the defection of so many creatures still disappointed him. Even Red Lanternfish began to reproach Bebe. "How could you do this?" Bebe retorted that she was merely seeking a powerful patron and did not wish to join Qianluo in death. Just then, Vertical River Turtle stealthily approached the Sea King and, lifting the weakened Qianluo, proudly announced to Sea Princess, "Great Sea Princess, I have captured the Sea King for you. I am ready to serve you as the new deity of the sea." In the moment of Vertical River Turtle's smug satisfaction, Red Lanternfish immediately cast a mental illusion spell, leaving him looking foolish and unwittingly releasing Qianluo. Taking advantage of the situation, Big Sea Turtle wasted no time and employed the mountain's crushing weight technique, pinning Vertical River Turtle underneath. Filled with righteous fury, he berated, "You ungrateful beast, today I shall sever family ties and remove you, the calamity, for the Sea King." Meanwhile, Jiang Bao sought to buy time for the Sea King by facing Sea Princess alone, but Sea Princess, having taken a liking to the plot, instantly eliminated Jiang Bao with a Light of Annihilation technique, murmuring that her brother had said that the play wouldn't be complete without the death of one or two sea creatures. However, this act of violence did not deter the loyal creatures. Instead, it invoked their ferocity. They collectively roared, "For the glory of the Sea King, let's fight this battle out." At this juncture, Qianluo, the overall director, had also found the answer he sought. The play had reached its end. He then pronounced with modulation in his voice, "Everyone has worked hard. My divine power has returned." He thought to himself that it was essential to play up to the situation. Failing to show even a hint of a miracle would simply lack flair. Qianluo pointed to the sky and shouted loudly, "I say, do you believe in light?" As soon as the words fell, a holy beam of light really appeared in the dark sky, enveloping the Sea Princess within it. The marine creatures watching the scene were shocked and started exclaiming, "This is too miraculous. Long live Lord Sea King!" And Sea Princess screamed in pain within the beam of light. At that moment, Qianluo slowly floated into the air and indifferently said, "Divine power, annihilate." In the next second, Sea Princess disappeared as if she had evaporated from the world. Although Sea Princess was actually banished back to base by Qianluo using spatial powers, in the eyes of all the marine creatures, the strong opponent that they altogether could not defeat was just taken down by Lord Sea King with one move. However, many of the marine creatures were shocked and felt uneasy at the same time, wondering if Lord Sea King had noticed their treacherous behavior during the commotion, especially Bebe, who immediately fell to the ground with a thud, crying out, "Lord Sea King, I realize my mistake. I won't dare to do it again." The marine creatures who had turned traitors earlier also knelt down honestly, praying in their hearts that Lord Sea King would forgive them this once. But just then, Red Lanternfish suddenly ran over and shouted, "Not good, Lord Sea King. Jiang Bao has sacrificed himself." Hearing this, Qianluo smiled slightly and said, "Take a closer look. Is it really dead?" Upon hearing these words, the marine creatures went forward to check carefully and confirmed that indeed it was dead, with no signs of life left. Seeing that the atmosphere had been heightened to this extent, Qianluo then nobly declared, "Jiang Bao was loyal and protected his lord, and he bought precious time for me to recover my divine power. As a reward, I will use my divine power to bring him back to life." Upon hearing this, all the marine creatures present were astonished, exclaiming, "How is that possible? Did Lord Sea King just say he will bring back the dead?" But under the incredulous gazes of everyone, Qianluo shouted loudly, "Divine power, revive." And in the next second, Jiang Bao actually slowly opened his eyes and quickly exclaimed, "Wasn't I killed in battle? Is this heaven?" Qianluo immediately said with a straight face, "Those who believe in me shall have eternal life. Even the King of Hell cannot take Jiang Bao away from me. That's my word." It turned out that the holy light beam and the miraculous resurrection were actually the work of Meili, hiding in the air and helping secretly. This instantly baffled all the marine creatures, who started exclaiming, "Believers in Sea King shall have eternal life." From now on, all members of the marine tribe swear loyalty to the Sea King. After all, if Lord Sea King can revive us, what do we have to fear? Upon hearing this, Qianluo was ecstatic, silently praising himself. This act was a smash flashing success. From now on, at my command, these marine creatures will be fearlessly loyal. Just then, Red Lanternfish said indignantly, Lord Sea King, how shall we deal with these traitors? Chenluo replied coldly, kill them. Their actions have deeply disappointed me. As his words fell, the loyal marine creatures immediately began to purge the traitors. Then, he collected the corpses of these creatures into his spatial ability, saying with great righteousness, although these ungrateful beings betrayed me, in consideration of our past master-servant relationship, I shall personally lay them to rest. Everyone, you may leave now. While Chenluo said this, he was thinking to himself, this is a windfall. 96 king-level crystals and bodies will more than suffice to elevate 56 level 10 members to king level. However, at that moment, Chenluo suddenly thought of a loophole. A single king-level crystal can promote a level 10 being. After promoting them, killing them not only recovers a king-level crystal but also grants a king-level corpse. Feeding the corpse to the enchanting tree would yield a king-level fruit. This is a buy one get one free deal. With this in mind, he immediately notified everyone telepathically, if you encounter any level 10 enemies, don't kill them outright, capture them alive. Then, Chenluo delivered the king-level marine creature corpses to the enchanting tree, which was overjoyed. Cooperating with you is the best decision I've made in my tree life. Now, I'm feasting on high-quality meat until I'm sick of it. Chenluo didn't waste words and directly inquired whether it had broken through in strength. You've consumed so many corpses and shared half of the king-level fruits. You should have broken through by now. He thought if the tree didn't have emperor-level potential, giving it the fruits would be wasteful. Upon hearing this, the enchanting tree hurriedly explained that it had indeed gained significant strength but seemed to have hit a bottleneck and was unable to progress further. Could I get an advance of 10 fruits to see if I can break through? Chenluo readily agreed to the enchanting tree's request since its advancement to emperor level would benefit everyone. Now, it's time for me to focus on comprehending my skills. A month later, Chenluo's signature technique had once again made a breakthrough. The range of his void walking had shattered all norms. He could now go anywhere on Blue Star with just a thought. His void walking could not only reach the heavens but also traverse the deepest oceans. Rice was shocked upon hearing this and immediately begged Chenluo to take her to the moon. Chenluo patted Rice on the shoulder and said seriously, I can't fulfill this request for now. First, taking someone with me would greatly increase the consumption, and second, the distance is indeed too far. I'm not completely confident about it, but for now, I can take some pictures on the moon for you. With that, Chenluo performed a void walk to the moon and was pleasantly surprised to find that his emperor-level physique didn't require a spacesuit in space. But just then, an astronaut approached Chenluo. He rushed over and started talking incessantly. After conversing, Chenluo learned that Jill was an astronaut who had lost contact with Blue Star shortly upon arriving on the moon and had survived till now with the abundant supplies in the space station. He then eagerly asked Chenluo why he had suddenly appeared and what had happened on Blue Star. Hearing this, Chenluo did not keep him in the dark and immediately told him about the apocalypse that had erupted. He also asked if he had seen anything strange on the moon. Jill hastily said that indeed he had. When he had just arrived at the moon, a blue and a black orb suddenly appeared near the Earth. The two orbs then violently collided, causing an explosion. Eventually, the black orb plummeted towards the Earth. On hearing this, Chenluo immediately went pale with shock. That black orb must be the original owner of the divine gear, no doubt about it. The timing of its fall coincided exactly with the onset of the apocalypse. The cause of the apocalypse was this dark power user who had been reduced to nothing by his opponent's single attack. His flesh and blood contaminated the entire Earth. Thinking of this, Chenluo quickly asked Jill about the other blue orb. Did it also fall to Earth? Jill immediately said that it was too fast, and he did not see it clearly. Hearing this, Chenluo fell into deep thought. Judging by the color of the orbs, Chenluo guessed that the one who defeated the divine gear's original owner must be an ice power user. He then took some supplies out of the extraordinary space and gave them to Jill as thanks. Jill was just about to ask Chenluo to stay with him a little longer when the latter disappeared with a void walk. After returning to base, Thunder King eagerly shouted, Master, I have advanced to Emperor level, and Congealed Frost has also reached the pinnacle of King level. Hearing this, Chenluo immediately walked into the room, murmuring to himself whether Congealed Frost had also been working hard lately. Hearing this, Congealed Frost smirked and said, Impressive, right? I'm just one step away from advancing to Emperor level. As soon as this was said, a terrifying thought suddenly surfaced in Chenluo's mind. Congealed Frost is an ice power user, and her tears can restore extraordinary powers. Most crucially, she does not experience pain during her advancement. Could she be the blue orb that defeated the divine gear's original owner? But soon he dismissed his own guess. If that were the case, he would have died 100 times over when he first offended Congealed Frost. Congealed Frost's uniqueness might just be because she ate a piece of flesh from the blue orb after it was injured. Just then, Rice suddenly shouted that there was big trouble. She sensed that the time for the monsters to descend had been moved up. They would arrive on Earth in 15 days. Seeing this, Chenluo immediately asked if she could sense the outcome of the upcoming battle. Rice then said with a worried face, judging by the outcome, the crisis seems to have been averted. But in a sense, it is also a failed ending. Rice Rice didn't know why she had such a strange premonition. It appeared to be a success on the surface, but in reality, it was a failure. Moreover, she had a vague premonition that there was a shocking secret hidden in Antarctica. It was absolutely necessary to avoid that place and especially to keep Chenluo from knowing, because the time was not right. Upon hearing this, Chenluo was greatly startled and hurriedly asked Rice if she could calculate the time and location of the monster's arrival. Hearing this, Rice did not hesitate and immediately began her foresight. She quickly calculated that the monsters would arrive around 1 o'clock in the afternoon in half a month, descending in a forest in the western part of Plum Continent. Half a month later, after arranging everything, Chenluo came to the predicted location of the monster's descent ahead of time to survey the situation. Sure enough, as Rice had foretold, not long after his arrival, he sensed a strange spatial fluctuation. Subsequently, a gigantic blue-green gate, dozens of meters long and 100 meters high, materialized out of thin air in the forest. As the vast spatial gate slowly opened, the next second, countless monsters of various forms startlingly appeared on Blue Star. Chenluo roughly estimated that there were at least 500 to 600 monsters, all of them above king level in strength. Then these monsters unanimously knelt to the ground, paying homage to a large monster in the center, clearly indicating its extraordinary status. Moreover, this creature's eyes were a distinctive red and blue. Upon closer inspection, Chenluo realized that the red one was not an eyeball, but a gem-like object. What was even more bizarre was that an octopus was clinging onto the creature's back. Could this octopus be an inside agent of the monsters on Blue Star? However, at that moment, the monsters suddenly cried out in unison in their language. In the next second, these heartless monsters began to wail in agony. Chenluo was somewhat baffled. Could it be that they were weeping for the original master of the divine gear? If that was the case, then it would confirm all of his previous conjectures, based on his memories from his past life. These monsters had come specifically for that set of divine gear, and they must be the kin of the original master of the divine gear. The moment he found the helmet, they had locked onto Blue Star's location, leading to the descent of the monsters. But just then, the monster leader suddenly turned its head towards Chenluo, giving him quite a fright. He thought to himself that even though he was hiding in a deeper layer of space, he had been discovered. Immediately, Chenluo switched to another location to hide. But what happened next completely shocked him. He saw the monsters take out a purple crystal and start to absorb energy from it. In just 2 minutes, 13 monsters broke through to Emperor level. Following this, the monster leader babbled on, seemingly planning some sort of action. A pity that Chenluo could not understand a word. To figure out the monster's next move, Chenluo decided to capture one and subject it to severe interrogation, having Meng Yin try to communicate with it. A game of cat and mouse was about to begin. As the monster leader gave an order, the monsters quickly split into 4 groups, each heading in different directions, presumably to advance towards different continents and slaughter all life on Blue Star. This was the scenario Chenluo was hoping to see. If all 500 plus king-level monsters were together, he really wouldn't have the confidence to win this battle. Now, it was as if he had been given the opportunity to break them down one by one. Oddly enough, the 13 Emperor-level monsters did not leave, but stayed to continue absorbing the crystal. This frightened Chenluo, who thought to himself, what on earth do these monsters intend to do? Could it be that they are trying to advance beyond Emperor level in a short amount of time? Upon realizing the powerful energy contained within the crystal, Chenluo had an epiphany. No wonder in his past life, even with Emperor-level strength, he still couldn't handle some monsters. It was because their power had already surpassed that level. Although Chenluo wanted to take advantage of their pre-promotion state to eliminate the threat permanently, he knew his current strength was insufficient. The immediate priority was to deal with the scattered monsters first. Chenluo then followed a squad to Flying Continent, while another headed towards the Kangaroo Continent, Dawn City's stronghold. Upon seeing this, Chenluo immediately commanded telepathically, eliminate all invaders. Not a single monster should escape. The response was immediate, and the forces sallied forth to the battlefield, chanting, those who offend our blue planet shall be pursued and vanquished no matter the distance. Soon, the Dawn City army intercepted the monsters. Seeing the vast number, Thunder King immediately declared his intention to take the lead to distract the monsters, urging the rest to set an ambush and trap them all. Melee instantly offered to boost his status to the maximum, warning Thunder King to be cautious as the enhancement effects would only last for 10 minutes. She then cast strength, speed, and a regenerative healing buff on Thunder King. Meanwhile, the monster leader suddenly shouted in disbelief that the decoys they had sent out were under attack. Another monster shook its head, sighing that they too were nothing bait. Despite knowing their master had died, they still had to continue the search for the murderer. It was clear the higher-ups wanted to use them as bait to test the killer's strength. This statement infuriated the monster leader, who sternly reminded everyone to watch their words. The talking monster quickly shut its big mouth, recalling the red gem in the leader's eye, a monitoring device sending live images back to their home planet. The leader solemnly stated that their mission was not only to find the murderer but also to return the crystals and armor to their home planet, with continuous reinforcements on the way. So, what's the hurry? The leader said. Continue with the plan. Once Thunder King unleashed a terrifying aura, he dashed into the crowd of monsters with a lightning flash. Before the monsters could react, Thunder King appeared before one and sent it flying with a thunderous punch. The monsters were taken aback, exclaiming that this dog's strength must have reached Emperor level. But what of it? They declared. With over 100 of us at King level, we can take him down. Brothers, let's fight together. Thunder King didn't hesitate, instantly speeding out of the encirclement and transforming into a war god, slapping the monsters around. But he quickly realized something was amiss. The monsters' defenses were astoundingly high, and despite Mei's full buffs, he couldn't kill a single one with his slaps. Thunder King then changed his tactic. With a loud cry of thunder, 5 bolts of lightning exploded in the sky, striking down at the crowd of monsters. At this moment, the monsters finally understood that this dog was not a physical fighter but a lightning ability user with a powerful offensive talent. Thunder King was like a god of thunder, controlling the purple sky lightning to harvest heads, causing screams to pierce the air. Even the monsters not hit by the lightning were fried inside out by the transmitted current. Although this attack inflicted widespread damage on the monsters, it also drained Thunder King significantly. Deciding to quit while ahead, Thunder King resolved to lead the dumb beasts into the ambush and then annihilate them together. With this thought in mind, Thunder King immediately shouted at the monsters with a sneer, "Come chase me, dummies." Although the monsters did not understand what he was saying, they could clearly feel that he was provoking them, so they immediately chased after him with a barrage of attacks. Thunder King pretended to be in a sorry state as he ran, shouting, "Stop hitting me, stop, it hurts, damn it." It must be said that this dog is truly cut from the same cloth as Chenluo. But soon, the monsters chasing after them sensed something was amiss. The ones with keen eyesight quickly shouted, "There's an ambush ahead, retreat." But it was too late, as they had already been led by Thunder King into the encirclement. Seeing this, Mei didn't hesitate, shouting urgently, "The leader has ordered a full assault. Leave none alive. Let's go." Upon her command, congealed frost launched the first strike against the enemy. In the next second, a hailstorm fell from the sky, causing widespread damage and slowing the enemies. Sea Princess used the hand of darkness to relentlessly reap heads, yelling, "Not one of you is getting away today." This terrified the monsters, who exclaimed in panic that there were so many Emperor-level beings among the natives. At that moment, one of the psychic-type monsters shouted, "Don't panic. I sense 100-strong King-level reinforcement team is on its way. It must be the backup our leader sent." But what they had been eagerly waiting for turned out not to be their own, but Chenluo's marine creature army, plunging them into deep despair. Upon witnessing this, a monster roared for its companions to scatter, and in the next second, detonated itself, causing heavy casualties to nearby members. Seeing this, the monsters laughed savagely, shouting, "Let's self-destruct too. We'll take some of them down with us." But their laughter was abruptly cut short, as Mei calmly cast several healing spells, instantly bringing the wounded back to full health. Then Mei declared confidently, "Brothers, charge boldly. With me here. As long as you're not taken out in one hit, I'll have you back to full health in no time." Meanwhile, on the flying continent, the team Chenluo was following split into 6 squads. Seeing this, Chenluo wasted no time, immediately following one of the squads, planning to start with them before taking down the others one by one. But just then, the monsters suddenly received an order from their leader to head to Kangaroo Continent immediately, as a powerful human force had been discovered there, and their forces had been ambushed. Hearing this, the monsters were stunned, exclaiming, "Could there be an ambush here as well?" But as soon as these words were spoken, Chenluo eerily appeared in front of them. With a shout of spatial storm, the space around the monsters exploded, and streams of turbulent wind began to lash at their bodies. A monster, gritting its teeth, charged out of the spatial storm and lunged fiercely at Chenluo. But just as its claws were about to pierce through him, Chenluo countered with a spatial banish, sending it back. He then immediately used spatial compression to reduce the storm's range, significantly increasing the frequency of attacks on the monsters. In just 3 minutes, more than 20 king-level monsters fell to Chenluo's surprise attacks. Meanwhile, on another front, the monster leader said reluctantly, "Our warriors sent to the Kangaroo Continent have been ambushed. They've been completely wiped out." A monster immediately turned pale with shock, yelling, "Could it be that these natives knew we were coming? To think they even set up an ambush in advance." Just then, the monster leader received yet more bad news. "We've been ambushed on the flying continent as well. According to the last message from my dying subordinate, the assailant is an Emperor-level space manipulator who also has the ability to teleport." As a fellow space manipulator, the leader understood all too well what teleportation implied. It was a divine skill within their space abilities. "I don't possess it," he admitted. "I haven't even touched the threshold of such a technique. And to think, in this backwater planet, there emerges a space manipulating genius. This person must not be allowed to live." Thinking this, the monster leader immediately ordered 12 Emperor-level elites to hunt down and kill this individual to prevent him from becoming a future threat. Meanwhile, Chenluo rushed back to his base, furiously casting time acceleration spells on his Tier 10 members. They had to advance before the next wave of monsters arrived. After 2 continuous hours of acceleration, 145 members finally broke through their limits, ascending to king level. But at that moment, Chen Guang suddenly shouted, "Brother Chen, something something terrible has happened. Scouts report that a large number of monsters have landed on Kangaroo Continent. What should we do now? Hearing this, Chenluo immediately ordered the base to enter a state of first-level combat readiness. Prepare for a tough battle. Cowards will be shown no mercy. He then quickly contacted Big Strong, instructing it to bring the zombie army to Dawn City for a rally. Simultaneously, the monster leader had also assembled his troops near Dawn City. With a tone of regret, he said, "If we had brought the laser cannon, we could have leveled this place in minutes. Poison Cloud, you will lead the charge. Make sure these lowly natives learn of our power." Poison Cloud confidently responded, "Rest assured, my leader, my poison has no cure. Just keep that space genius busy for me. Don't let him teleport me away." The leader quickly reassured, "Teleportation, though divine, comes at a great cost. If he dares to use it, he'll be left without any means to save himself, and at that point, I'll make sure he has no grave to be buried in." At this moment, Chenluo also spotted the approaching monster army. He immediately ordered a sortie from the city to meet them in battle, Big Strong leading the zombie horde. To encourage them to be willing cannon fodder, Chenluo tricked them, saying it was only a drill. "Whoever flees will end up like the Sea Tribe before you." With this declaration, the zombie army shouted their willingness to charge into the fray, declaring, "Even if we die, our big brother can bring us back." Only Thorn Queen whispered to Big Strong, "This doesn't seem like just a drill to me." Big Strong hastily replied, "Just hang back a bit during the fight. There's no need to rush forward for real." Then, leading the zombie army out of the base, Big Strong thought to himself, "I must play this leading role. Otherwise, who else would be desperate enough to charge forward? I'm the big brother's confidant. If I die, he's sure to revive me first." Under the leadership of Big Strong, the zombie army launched a kamikaze attack without regard for their own lives. The monsters also immediately threw various abilities at them. Upon witnessing this scene, the zombies were shocked and shouted that this exercise seemed too realistic. They urged each other not to disgrace their leader and to charge together. As the zombie army began to deplete, Chenluo quickly shouted orders for all members to attack, vowing not to spare any invaders of the blue planet. But just as the members rushed out of the base, a strange green rain suddenly fell from the sky. Seeing this, Chenluo realized the rain was highly toxic. Those who got drenched began to suffer from dizziness, weakness, and even some spat out blood. It turned out that a poison-type monster had tampered with the rain, causing those who were soaked to be poisoned. Although the range of the dark clouds wasn't vast, they were strategically placed on the monster's path of attack. Then Poison Cloud, with a grin, stated that in order to face them, one must first survive his poison rain formation. No sooner had he finished speaking than a pair of pure white wings appeared in the dark sky, blowing away the black clouds with their powerful flapping, while also releasing a warm breeze. The previously poisoned members were cured under the gentle wind. Mealy, enveloped in a glowing light at the rear, appeared like a fairy descending to earth, bolstering the morale of all members. Poison Cloud shouted in disbelief that his poison had been neutralized by a lowly inhabitant of the blue planet. Seeing this, the monster leader's expression darkened as he muttered about the surprising talents on this planet. Unexpectedly, the Sea Princess appeared on the battlefield clad in divine armor, exciting the monster leader who could not take his eyes off the armor. Although Chenluo was not fully aware of the monster's ultimate purpose, he knew that this armor was one of their objectives. Thus, Chenluo arranged for the Sea Princess to lure them away, aiming to eliminate the 300-plus king-level monsters first. At the sight of the divine armor, the 13 Emperor-level monsters, including the leader, were momentarily stunned. They knew that by collecting the full set of armor, they could return to their home planet immediately, even without finding the ancestor's killer. In truth, they did not wish to find the murderer since even their ancestor had fallen at his hands. Facing such a foe would likely lead to certain death. With this realization, the monsters exhibited ecstatic expressions, as the natives had inadvertently helped them assemble the complete set of divine armor. Before the monster leader could speak, the 13 Emperor-level monsters simultaneously charged at Sea Princess. With the boost from her shoes, Sea Princess' speed naturally far exceeded that of the normal Emperor level. It was impossible for these fools to catch up to her. However, the monster leader soon sensed something was amiss. Just when they were about to catch her, this woman would suddenly increase the distance between them. Clearly, she was kiting us. "No good," a monster said with eyes full of rage. "Leader, should we use our trump card to snatch the divine armor?" Upon hearing this, the leader immediately rejected the suggestion. "The trump card is only for dealing with the murderer. Otherwise, if we encounter him without it, we won't even have a chance to escape. Let's go back and join the main force first. Deal with the other natives before sorting her out." Meanwhile, Chenluo was having the time of his life on the battlefield. Every time a monster would use a powerful skill, he would banish another monster into the void to use as a meat shield. This caused great panic among the monsters, and no one dared to release their big moves lightly anymore. Seeing the Emperor-level monsters return to the battlefield, Chenluo was quite disappointed, thinking to himself that his strategy must have been seen through. So he quickly called his sister back using telepathy. Meanwhile, the monster leader was intently counting how many times Chenluo had used spatial walking. Although it couldn't believe that the opponent had used it over 40 times. "How many more times can you use your spatial divine skill, it thought. Once your energy is depleted, your end will come. With this in mind, the leader quickly ordered the other Emperor-level monsters to join the battle, but not to rush attacking the spatial talent, for teleportation is truly an unsolvable skill. At this moment, the leader had already quietly set his sights on Melee, thinking to himself, target the healers first in team fights, so I will start with this woman. In the blink of an eye, the monster leader had silently charged a dimensional blade, releasing it at the unsuspecting Melee with incredible speed. Other types might not notice, but Chenluo, being of the spatial type, was sensitive to any space fluctuations and would not miss them. Trying to play dirty with me? Ha, you're still too green, Chenluo thought. Just 2 meters before the dimensional blade could reach Melee, Poison Cloud suddenly appeared involuntarily behind her. Poison Cloud was frightened out of its wits, its expression about to turn bewildered when the dimensional blade had already cleaved it in half. Seeing this, the monster leader's face was filled with disbelief. It couldn't believe that it had accidentally killed one of its own. How did that boy know I was going to strike? He shouldn't have had enough energy to activate instant movement again. Little did it know, the space divine skill, which seemed extremely draining in its eyes, was almost negligible for Chenluo. Seeing this, all the monsters abandoned long-range attacks and reluctantly switched to close combat. At this moment, Sea Princess also arrived on the battlefield and immediately summoned several eyes of darkness. The Emperor-level monsters saw this, but did not attempt to stop her, mockingly saying that the woman must be brain damaged. We just need to stay out of the array's range, right? But as soon as the words fell, all 12 Emperor-level monsters found themselves uncontrollably positioned right in the center of the eyes of darkness. The next second, the eyes of darkness began their merciless firing. One monster struggled to speak. Leader, didn't you say that this divine skill couldn't be used many times? Why can he still move all of us into the array? Hearing this, the monster leader was silent for a moment before speaking in a deep voice. Trust me, this divine skill is incredibly draining of energy. He definitely can't use it many more times. Upon hearing this, the monsters all began to try to forcibly break through the constraints of the formation. However, time and time again, they were teleported back into it by Chenluo. Seeing this, Sea Princess didn't dilly-dally. She promptly rewarded each of the foolish creatures with a crippling weakness. At the same time, Chenluo also inflicted them with a time-slowing spell, instantly reducing their speed manifold, rendering them unable to evade the attacks of the dark eyes. At this moment, one of the monsters, with a ferocious light in its eyes, shouted, I can't take this anymore. If this continues, we will lose. If we don't use our trump card now, we'll all die. No sooner had the words left its mouth than the monster transformed into a pool of black liquid. In the blink of an eye, it became a beast emanating a strong, sinister aura, with a creepy cackle escaping its lips. Chenluo immediately sensed trouble because the creature's power was definitely above Emperor level. However, he thought to himself that such a drastic power increase in such a short time surely couldn't last. With this in mind, Chenluo promptly used a time acceleration spell on the creature. To this, the beast just scoffed at him and then turned to attack Sea Princess nearby. Thankfully, the armor activated a shield just in time, and Sea Princess narrowly escaped disaster. Knowing the shield wouldn't last long, Chenluo understood he had to deal with the monster quickly, or his sister's life would be in peril. So, he further accelerated time. Unexpectedly, even after 2 minutes of continuous acceleration, the creature showed no signs of dissipating. Far from perishing, the monster broke through Sea Princess's shield. It was only then that Chenluo realized this creature was not a short-lived existence. He immediately cast a spatial banishment on the monster, sending it hundreds of miles away, thinking to himself that this move could only buy them a little time. Now it's time for me to play my ace, he thought, as he instructed his sister to hold on, assuring her he would be right back. However, no sooner had Chenluo left than the monster silently returned. To Sea Princess's utter surprise, the creature did not immediately attack her, but instead charged straight at her dark eyes. With several booming explosions, the dark eyes, conjured by the divine gear, were effortlessly destroyed by the monster. Seeing this, Sea Princess didn't waste any time. She immediately used the boots from her divine gear to activate a speed boost and fled. The monster let out a slight chuckle. Trying to run? It's not that easy. As the words fell, with unbelievable speed, it grabbed Sea Princess in its grasp, frightening her greatly. She quickly unleashed a dark deterrence in an attempt to use a psychic attack to break free, but to no avail. The move had no effect on the beast. Then, Sea Princess plunged her sword fiercely into the monster's chest, but even the divine sword could not inflict any damage. At this moment, Sea Princess was utterly bewildered, wondering what level this monster was. Even clad in a full set of divine gear, she found herself powerless to fight back. Just as the monster was about to forcefully take the divine gear, Chenluo arrived just in time with Jiang Chushua via Void Walk. Pointing at the black monster, he shouted urgently for her to immobilize it. Hearing this, Jiang Chushua didn't hesitate and immediately used Time Stop on the creature. The next second, the hand that was about to strip off the armor came to a sudden halt. This threw the monster leader into a panic, who urgently yelled for his minion to hurry up and seize the divine gear, wondering why it was just standing there. The creature seemed not to hear and remained motionless. It It dawned on the monster leader that the culprit for this was the girl Chenluo had brought to the battlefield. It must be her control over the creature, likely with a time stop or rare ability, 1 in a billion even across the universe. If the higher-ups heard of this, support would surely arrive sooner. With this revelation, the monster leader couldn't help but laugh out loud, mumbling Zawarudo, Zawarudo. Although Chenluo didn't understand the meaning behind its words, he took the creature's delight as an opportunity to take their lives. He sent out a telepathic message to all his allies to rally to his side and focus their firepower to eliminate the monsters. After giving the instruction, he silently charged up a dimensional blade and hurled it at an incredible speed towards the monster. To his shock, though the dimensional blade hit its forehead squarely, it failed to kill the creature. The split head healed at a visible rate, leaving no trace behind, and the monster returned to peak condition. Chenluo was genuinely alarmed, realizing that even his strongest attack skill could not harm the beast. He pondered whether he should use that move. Just then, Jiang Chushue, out of breath, said, "Brother Chen, my powers are almost depleted. I can only use time stop one more time. Everyone must seize this opportunity." With that, she cast her final time stop on the creature. Thunder King didn't idle either. He immediately executed his fusion ability, the Wind Thunder Palm, and struck the monster with a fierce blow. Yet this attack still did no damage. Seeing this, Chenluo was stunned. He had to admit this creature was as resilient as a cockroach. Since attacks were ineffective, it seemed he had no choice but to resort to that move. If he could banish it to the deep spatial rift, even if the spatial storms didn't shred it, it would be trapped and eventually die there. At that moment, Chenluo crossed his legs and levitated, beginning his attempt to rupture space. Soon, a spatial rift appeared behind him, and as he infused it with the force of space, the layers of space began to fracture. By the time he reached the 7th layer, a wormhole-like crack had emerged behind him, swirling with numerous space storms. Then, Chenluo, with a smirk, said, "Your end has come." With that, he unleashed spatial banishment on the black monster. In the next second, the creature appeared at the entrance to the rift, looking utterly bewildered. Before it could make sense of the situation, Chenluo kicked it squarely in the rear, propelling it into the abyss-like crack, muttering bye-bye as he did so. With a wave of his hand, the spatial rift vanished silently into the sky. Although this completely dealt with the black monster, because this also meant that it had lost a crystal above the Emperor level. However, the crisis was now averted. Without the formidable black monster, dealing with the common Emperor-level creatures became much simpler. With this thought, Chenluo immediately sounded the charge for attack. The situation quickly became one-sided. Congealed Frost took charge of controlling a large area, freezing any escaping creatures with her powerful abilities. Thunder King charged into the fray, reaping the weakened Emperor-level creatures. Through the concerted efforts of everyone, Dawn City, led by Chenluo, achieved ultimate victory. However, there were no smiles on their faces as many comrades had fallen heroically in battle, and the survivors bore grave injuries. Although it was a Pyrrhic victory, it was an outcome beyond Chenluo's wildest dreams from his previous life, where humanity perished following the monster's arrival, with only him surviving by the skin of his teeth using void walking. At this time, Chenluo spoke passionately. "Those who threaten our blue star, no matter how far, shall be vanquished. Though we've lost many brothers in this battle, rest assured, Meili will resurrect them shortly." Just then, Thunder King suddenly threw the monster leader in front of him, stating that he had kept 2 alive as per instructions, to verify their truthfulness during interrogation. Chenluo then called Meng Yin to communicate with the monster leader through telepathy. The leader was surprisingly cooperative, probably thinking that once reinforcements arrived, it would be saved. The mere presence of the time manipulator was enough reason for the clan leader to come to Blue Star personally. At that time, all of them would have to. Through Meng Yin's translation, it was learned that the monster leader, named Budwa, had come to Blue Star to search for their ancestors' whereabouts. However, it seemed the ancestor had met with misfortune, so they were ordered to retrieve the godly equipment at all costs. This equipment, crafted by exhausting the ancestors' resources, was critical. Hearing this, Chenluo knew Budwa wasn't lying, as their arrival had been marked with tears. Continuing the interrogation, Chenluo asked, "What is that red eyeball of yours? You wouldn't mind if I took a look, would you?" Upon hearing this, Budwa shouted, "I've been cooperative enough. What more do you want? Do you Blue Star natives even have any sense of reason?" Upon hearing this, Chenluo immediately struck back with a loud slap, shouting, "You've invaded our planet. What right do you have to talk about reason with me?" Following that, Chenluo forcibly removed the gem from the creature, demanding, "Spill it. What does this thing actually do? Or else don't blame me for being ruthless." With no other choice, the monster revealed the function of the stone. "This object has the ability to record and transmit what I see back to our home planet in real time. That means everything that's happened here is already known to our clan leader. Ha ha ha. Just wait for your doom." Upon hearing this, Chenluo slapped it several times more, scoffing, "Who allowed you to laugh? Speak, when will your reinforcements arrive?" Budwa first fell silent for a moment before truthfully saying, "Within 3 days, our clan leader will descend upon Blue Star personally. His power far exceeds your comprehension. Though your time stopping is indeed unsolvable, you could at most hold him for half a second." Hearing this, Chenluo hastily inquired, "What level is your clan leader, and how is your strength classified. Budwa informed Chenluo that their powers are categorized as king level, emperor level, and sovereign level, and beyond that are demigod level and divine level. The minions I brought are all at king level. My 12 kin and I are at emperor level. The one you banished into the spatial rift is at sovereign level, and our clan leader is a demigod level powerhouse. 100 sovereign levels would not match a demigod level. Upon hearing this, Chenluo was frozen on the spot, thinking, let alone demigod level, we don't even have a sovereign level among us. When that demigod level being descends upon Blue Star, how am I supposed to face him? Budwa explained that only those who have reached demigod level have the qualification to break through to divine level. However, one cannot advance to divine level merely through absorbing crystals. It depends on the individual's insight. 99% of demigod levels will not break through this barrier in their lifetime, while a few understand the mystery within a few years and ascend to divinity. From what I've observed about you, your mastery of teleportation is nearly magical. In the entire universe, only a select few space-related geniuses have grasped such a divine technique, but they can only use it a limited number of times, unlike you, who can use it infinitely. If you have the chance to advance to demigod level, you are very likely to ascend on the spot to divinity with your understanding of teleportation. However, I have never heard of anyone directly becoming a god. Upon hearing this, Chenluo was utterly baffled. Is it that hard? As a survival expert, shouldn't mastering such a skill be expected? I don't have time for your flattery. Just tell me what level your ancestor is, and who took him down. Budwa quickly confessed everything. My ancestor was at the divine level. The one who took down my ancestor is a divine level ice element user. That's all I know. But one thing is for sure, that ice user must have been seriously injured, and is probably hiding somewhere on Blue Star, secretly healing. Chenluo was shocked at the realization that there was a divine level being on Blue Star, thinking that an encounter would mean certain death, without even knowing how it came about. Seeing his reaction, Budwa immediately began to spout nonsense with a serious look. We really don't need to be mortal enemies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. We could actually collaborate. When our clan leader arrives, we could join forces to find that ice divine level being. He's seriously injured, and if you could just use your time powers to hold him for a moment, our clan leader is confident he can finish him off. Afterward, we'll give you resources to ascend to demigod level. Chenluo wasn't fooled, thinking that cooperation is a matter between equals, and they surely had ulterior motives. He dismissed the offer with a non-committal, I'll think about it, to express sincerity in forming an alliance. Budwa hastily offered a sovereign level space crystal as a gift. Chenluo then realized why they had an extra crystal upon their arrival on Blue Star. It was from a storage ring. Without further politeness, Chenluo snatched the ring and found inside 4 emperor level crystals and 2 mysterious books, which delighted him greatly. He said, I accept your gesture. I'll consider the collaboration. Stay here and behave. I've got other things to handle. Then, he went to Rice to discuss how to deal with the incoming demigod level. Rice disdainfully remarked, just a small fry, not worth the fuss. Startled, Chenluo exclaimed, you're calling a demigod level a small fry? Are you joking? Rice just laughed, saying, didn't that guy travel through a space tunnel? Accidents on such a long journey are normal. Don't worry, he's just coming here to be defeated. However, I sense that the injured divine level has healed and will seek us out the day after tomorrow. That's what you should be concerned about. At this revelation, Chenluo became anxious. Should we consider allying with the demigod level then? But Rice quickly dismissed this idea. This is not something that small fry can handle, but that divine level needs to die, and you are key to this. If you can't do it, Blue Star will be no more. Only you can complete this mission. Hearing this, Chenluo was horrified. I'm just an emperor level, 3 whole realms below a divine level. How can I contend with a divine level? That's like asking a kindergartner to box with Tyson. It's absurd. Though Chenluo knew nothing about the power of a divine level, he inferred its extent from the legacy of the deity, which had influenced all life on Blue Star. The Sea Princess ascended to emperor level just by consuming a piece of his flesh. Eating more could potentially raise her to sovereign level, and that was merely a passive reaction from his death. The ice divine level being had actually killed this entity. Asking him to take on such a being seemed like an impossible tale, but Rice seemed unconcerned and indicated that it wasn't about strength when it came to killing him. She felt that as long as Chenluo could make good use of his space-time abilities, he could successfully kill the adversary. You need to think about it carefully, she said. Hearing this, Chenluo wandered towards his room in a daze, starting to sum up and conclude his abilities. He dismissed the spatial abilities. They were good enough for escape, but hopeless for killing a divine level being. As for time abilities, he had only mastered time acceleration. Could he possibly accelerate the divine level being to death? Theoretically, it made sense, but to accelerate a divine level being to death, not to mention whether his abilities were strong enough in that time span, a mere flick of the adversary's finger could end him. Could it be that Rice was suggesting he use space-time summoning to borrow strength from his future self? Budwa had mentioned that he had the potential to reach divine level. Given enough crystals, perhaps in 3 to 5 years, he could advance to demigod level. The time span wasn't too long. He should be able to summon his future self. He had used this tactic against the sea god by how before. It should be feasible. Strictly speaking, what he summoned last time was his past self, not his future self. Hence, He must master the art of future spacetime summoning as soon as possible. With a solution in mind, Chenluo started to ponder deeply. To his dismay, he had no clues even as night deepened, leading him to a state of utter despair. He then questioned his soul. Why had the task of saving the world fallen on him, and why had he been reborn? At this thought, Chenluo suddenly had a bold idea. Could it be that in his previous life, he had also awakened the dual spacetime abilities without realizing it? He vividly remembered that in his past life, while burying himself amidst immense despair and loneliness, he longed for the days before the apocalypse, surrounded by friends and endless food. He wished to return to the past, and then he did, finding himself back before the apocalypse broke out. Chenluo had an epiphany. Maybe he hadn't been reborn at all. Perhaps in his extreme despair, he had used spacetime retrogression. Now, he knew how to deal with that divine-level being. If he could regress the being to the time when his injuries were most severe, victory would be easily in his grasp. At that time, that being wouldn't even dream of killing him. He might not even be able to move. Meanwhile, on the other side, the chief of the Boudoir clan almost couldn't help burst into pig-like laughter upon learning that there was a time series user on Blue Star. He originally just wanted to retrieve his father's divine armor, but unexpectedly discovered a time series user. A time series crystal was worth more than 100 sets of armor. Thinking of this, he immediately contacted the Space Series big shot, Time Trace, to request the construction of a spatial tunnel to Blue Star, claiming that his father died there and he had to personally go to retrieve his father's remains. Upon hearing this, Time Trace immediately said that he was close friends with his father and he wouldn't mind helping, but he cautioned that teleporting a demigod level through a space tunnel could be problematic, especially over such a distance with many uncertainties. He asked if Barrow was certain he wanted to go himself. Barrow firmly stated that his mind was made up and implored Time Trace to oblige. Although he spoke of retrieving his father's corpse, he was actually thinking about the fortune to be had. A time series user on Blue Star was a priceless treasure. Subsequently, Time Trace began constructing the spatial tunnel, Barrow carefully watching, not daring to breathe too loudly, his heart full of excitement, silently thinking about how he was about to get the time series crystal. Approximately 2 hours later, the spatial tunnel to Blue Star was completed. Normally, Time Trace would meticulously check the tunnel after construction, but just then, a woman's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Do you have time now? The answer to what you want to know is ready. Come to me quickly. Hearing this, Time Trace was visibly shaken and promptly replied respectfully, Please wait, Violet. I will come immediately. Seeing this, Barrow quickly asked what was happening to Time Trace, but Time Trace didn't have time to chat. He simply said the spatial tunnel was finished and then turned to leave, thinking to himself that although he had not checked the tunnel, he couldn't make Violet wait. He had previously informed him of certain risks, so if anything did happen, it wouldn't be his fault. The one calling Time Trace was a causality series user. Although Violet only had king-level strength, she was an extraordinary existence that could control causality. It was said that several divine-level beings who had intended to harm her had all without exception suffered causality's retribution and met with miserable deaths. And even if Violet were unfortunate, she would quickly be reborn in another cycle. About 2 hours later, Time Trace arrived at Violet's planet. Over the years, he had served her like a dog to glean from her mouth his own causality, which had earned him a bit of her favor. Then he respectfully said, Please tell me the answer, Violet. Without hesitation, Violet said that in the near future, he would become enemies with an emerging space series genius, and that he might even die by his hand. Hearing this, Time Trace turned pale with shock and shouted, Is this my fate? Please tell me who this person is and where he is so I can take precautions. Violet smiled slightly and said, Although I don't know the details about this person, I sense that soon someone will voluntarily tell you about him. You just need to wait patiently at home. Upon hearing this, Time Trace quickly expressed his gratitude. Thank you, Violet, for informing me in advance. I will spare no expense to snuff out this threat in its cradle. Meanwhile, on the other side, Rice sensed a piece of fantastic news. That demigod-level weakling had encountered danger in the space tunnel, and in 2 hours, he would be dead on arrival, delivering a great gift to them. This delighted Chenluo immensely, who promptly inquired about the other, the divine-level individual, and when he might be able to rid himself of this thorn in his side. Rice responded seriously, That person will appear soon, coming to you today, but now is not the time to deal with him. No matter what he does or says, you must endure. You must keep a low profile until the right moment arrives. Chenluo, eager to know when this moment would come, got a vague response from Rice, who stroked his chin and said gravely, I'm not entirely sure when, but it should be in the next few days. It's the gift I've been preparing for you for over a year. When the time comes, you'll have the opportunity to strike down that divine level. But let's not talk about this now. Let me take you to accept that big gift sent by the demigod level. Simultaneously, on the other side, the divine level powerhouse hiding on Blue Star had finally recovered from his injuries. At the moment Ismon's wounds healed, she detected a faint space fluctuation. If I'm not mistaken, this should be someone from the Auburn clan coming here after him. But that guy got blown up by me. If he hadn't had that armor, he couldn't have caused me any serious harm. Now it's time for me to claim what I'm owed. Deciding to check out the situation at the transmission point, she, despite despite not being able to travel through the void, leveraged her divine-level power to reach the vicinity of the space tunnel in just 2 minutes. By this time, Chenluo and Rice had already arrived at the transmission point. Surveying the carnage, Chenluo, suppressing his disgust, collected the scattered remains, which were a potent source of energy for the enchanting tree. Aside from the barely alive demigod-level individual, Chenluo also found 6 sovereign-level crystals. This trip had been incredibly profitable. The gift from the Boudoir family had almost provided him with enough resources to ascend to demigod level. Chenluo thought it best to keep the demigod-level individual alive for now, as he surely knew more than that young greenhorn Boudoir. He planned to take him back for interrogation while preventing his recovery. However, just then, a figure suddenly appeared behind him. Although Rice had mentioned that the divine level would soon appear, it still gave Chenluo a fright, for he had detected no one nearby. If she had chosen to ambush instead of revealing herself, Chenluo reckoned he would have been killed before he could even attempt to escape through the void. Chenluo, sweating coldly, turned to face this figure, only to find that this person was not a ferocious alien, but a delicate-looking spiritual woman. Isman glanced over indifferently, and in a second, Chenluo felt his mind go blank, his body as if submerged in boundless cold. Merely a look from her instilled in him an unprecedented sense of despair. Isman wondered internally. This Barrow was a demigod level. After all, how had he fallen into such a state? Even the most downtrodden demigod level should be invulnerable to such an insignificant human. Could it be that this unfortunate soul encountered an accident during transmission? Better to deal with these few now. For the time being, it's best to keep my whereabouts hidden. Upon making her intentions to act, Isman noticed runes circulating around Rice. Runes invisible to Chenluo, but crystal clear to her. The sight startled her, disbelief flickering in her eyes. It was the first time she had witnessed rune circulation in someone below the divine level, and these were runes she had never seen before. She quickly consulted a weathered tome and, after comparing the runes with those on Rice, even she, a divine-level powerhouse, was visibly shaken and flushed with excitement. She whispered to herself that these must be the destiny-manipulating runes that transcend causality. With such an ally by her side to attract fortune and repel disaster, she believed she could achieve great feats. She was about to greet Rice, but then realized Rice might not understand her language. So, she gestured to Chenluo instead. Reluctantly, he approached, remembering Rice's earlier admonition to not resist whatever the divine-level being did. Isman extended a finger, touching Chenluo's forehead, and to his surprise, she spoke in the language of the Blue Star. "Young one, may I be a guest at your home?" Despite his reluctance, Chenluo agreed, as he dared not refuse. Then, turning to Rice, she touched her head and said, "Little sister, the stage of Blue Star is too small. Would you be interested in exploring a bigger stage with me?" Chenluo realized that Rice had foreseen Isman's interest in her. It was because of Rice that the divine-level being had not attacked him. If he had come alone, he might well have been dead by now. Rice joyfully exclaimed that she had long wanted to see the outside world, but was reluctant to leave just yet. She asked to stay a few more days to bid farewell to her friends. Isman agreed without hesitation. "A few days is fine, as long as you're happy, Lady Rice." At that moment, Chenluo understood Rice's intentions. It seemed his opportunity to slay a god would come in the next few days.